urgent problem with little hope of solution. These misperceptions come from the fact that we're only hearing a fraction of the story.
I think it's hard to understand what occupation is. I think it's a foreign concept for many Americans, what it's like to live under military occupation.
The definition of an occupation is when a foreign army occupies your land physically and controls your life.
In addition, Palestinians under occupation, and this is why there's so much struggle against the occupation, they're not citizens, they don't have rights, they don't have civil rights. They're under a military rule.
This is a particular kind of occupation that's both military and settler occupation.
Settlements are areas of Palestinian land which are selected, and whatever is there, whether it's roads or whether it's villages or homes, they're bulldozed, and then a new town is built on the hilltop.
One very good friend is Rodina Jabber, and she and her husband Atta have land in a rural valley near here called the Ba'a. And it's pretty clear these settlements want this land. It's some of the best agricultural land around here. So that valley has had repeated home demolitions.
Here you have Palestinians that have no input whatsoever in the policies that are made. They're not on the city council. They're not in any of the decision-making bodies in the West Bank or Gaza. They're certainly not in the government. The policies are made in order to ensure Israeli control. So the law is designed in a way, in a very cynical way, to prevent Palestinians from building and to keep them confined in little islands, so that most of the land of the occupied territories is free for Israeli settlement.
These are armed settlements, about 190 of them spread all over the West Bank.
Settlements are strategically built colonies of Israel that are connected by a network of roads which separate each Palestinian community from the next and confine their ability to expand. They are often constructed around the best farmland and water resources.
They are surrounded by barbed wire. They are armed inside. Settler residents are required to be armed by the Israeli military, and they are defended from the outside by the Israeli military itself.
The purpose of these settlements today, number one, is to continue the Israeli control and domination of the occupied territories.
And the bottom line in all of this is to make Palestinians leave the country. It's a very hard term, I know, but in a sense it's a kind of ethnic cleansing.
The Israeli government and the Israeli army is not dealing with people as equal. I mean, I think that that's the main problem, that Palestinians are not considered, are not perceived as equals to Israelis.
There is no specific discrimination against Palestinian Christians as opposed to Palestinian Muslims. It's a shared suffering.
Christians see themselves very much a part of the Palestinian national movement. They identify with the Palestinian people as being their people.
Palestinian Christians have difficulty getting to churches on Sunday morning if they wanted to come to Jerusalem because they don't have that permission or that legal right, according to the Israeli government, to come to Jerusalem for worship.
This I picked up in a home of a wonderful Christian family in Beit Jala. And this is the kind of armor-piercing weaponry that's being used against civilians, innocent civilians.
some words, but you can't tell how they feel. As everybody, I want my children to be happy, to live their right life as children. We just think about one thing. Where can I put my children while they are shooting? They didn't want to go to school because they are scared to come back and there is no house. They doesn't want to go without me and the father because they think that they will lose us.
That is a glimpse, actually, of what an occupation, a military occupation actually means. You know, a military occupation ruins your life, period. You know, Palestinians want nothing but for the Israelis to get the hell out of their land so they can live happily ever after. You know, there is a thriving Palestinian society. I mean, it's not like we're not talking about a bunch of people living in the desert here. You know, Palestinians, there is a society, there are 12 million of them. Very highly educated. Very highly educated. You know, you have the doctors, the attorneys, the businessmen, the engineers, etc., etc. And Palestinians can, if they are left alone, if the settlers, you know, what are the settlers? The settlers are supposedly civilians, but all of them are with guns. You know, we got some pictures to show you for what really the settlers really are. Now imagine if you have this kind of people running around the streets of your town, just making your life miserable just because they're Jews and because they have guns. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. This is not a movie. What you're watching here is exactly what happened. This is actually in a street of an Arab city. The driver is an Israeli. He is one of the leaders in a settlement that is close by, driving through streets where Palestinian children were playing. He ran over 2 of them. That is actually an exact picture of what happened. That's exactly what happened. Do you think if that took place in your city, on the streets of your city, what do you think would have happened to the driver? Yes, you guessed it right. He will be in jail probably for the rest of his life. The man who did this walked out. Did not spend not even 1 minute in jail. That's what an occupation is. And that's what Palestinians want out. They want these people out of their streets, out of their lives, so they can finally, after 63 years, they can pay attention to building their future and their children's future. Show them some more settlers. Okay, these are settlers' children. You know, they raise their children to hate Palestinians, to hate Arabs, Muslims, and Christians. That is a bulldozer that basically was bulldozing someone's house or destroying someone's land so they can make room. You know, we showed you, go back to the picture. Now, why should this little girl be subjected to this brutality and this terrorism? Why small children would have to go through this? Why? Why would a child that age had to go and see where his father was blown up just minutes before? How long would Palestinian children be subjected to this brutality by the Israeli military? How long? That's why we say it is time for a Palestinian state. The whole world is asking for a Palestinian state. Only the United States is holding out because it has veto power and because Israel has power over the United States to actually force the United States to have veto power. You've seen Barack Obama a couple of months ago. He tried to stand up for Benjamin Netanyahu. He could not. He had to eat his own words. The next day, he was very much begging for Benjamin Netanyahu's mercy. For God's sake, this is the strongest country in the world. Have we no pride in ourselves? Have we no pride in what we have accomplished? Freedom? We are not free. The United States is not free because I guarantee you, if you take, number one, if you give people in the United States just 1 week to show them the truth of what is going on, just 1 week, and then have a memorandum on that. See if people in the United States would want an independent Palestinian state or not. It's not that they really should have a say-so in it, but you were dragged into it because your money is what's maintaining that occupation. It is your hard-earned money as a taxpayer, as an American taxpayer, you are maintaining the Israeli occupation of Palestine. You are the one paying for Palestinian misery. Now, if you were given the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to learn that fact, I guarantee you, 99% of you will say yes to a Palestinian state, and no, we will not be paying for a brutal occupation like this. We got other pictures to show you from the occupation, just to show you what an occupation really is. You know, settlers on the streets harassing Palestinians, destroying their homes. This woman is minutes after the Israeli army had blown up her house. This bulldozer is coming to actually destroy this man's, the one who's standing out there, is coming to destroy his house. Now imagine if you see one of those monsters coming in front of your house. Now, only when that happens to you, ladies and gentlemen, you will understand what an occupation is. Now, this is a checkpoint. This is where people are trying to get to a hospital here. And many, many women had given birth on those checkpoints and roadblocks. Many children died from the Israeli aggression against the Palestinians. The big super tanks faced with little children with rocks. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time to stop seeing those images coming from Palestine? The whole world wants a Palestine. Go back to the picture. Yes, the picture before. You know, it's not just Palestinians. You have people from all over the world. You know, this is a demonstration in Washington, very much calling for end the occupation. Many good-hearted Americans are out there fighting for the Palestinians, to have a homeland, an independent Palestine, a government of their own, a government that is not ruining their lives, a government that's going to give them an opportunity, not jail them and imprison them. Settlements, there are hundreds of them in Palestine. And about settlements, you're not talking about like the Oklahoma settlers here with few tents. You're talking about cities. Now this hill or mountain was taken away. This is Palestinian land. It was taken away by the Israelis because the Israelis have the guns and they will kill you if you try to stop them. So many and hundreds of these settlements, look at this, hundreds of these settlements. You know, these are not settlements, these are cities, for God's sake. And yes, that's exactly what they want. The Israelis do not want peace. The Israelis do not. This is here actually. Settlers burned Palestinians' olive groves, olive trees. Olives is very, it's a stable commodity, and actually the Palestinian economy depends a lot on olives. They export a lot of olive oil to many countries around the world. Settlers go there and burn them. Yes, settlers. Now, you have 2 soldiers and 2 settlers. They're dressed in civilian clothing, but to me there's no difference. There's no difference. All of them have guns and all of them can shoot and all of them kill and all of them killed Palestinians and got away with it. Now, don't you think that's enough reason for penny? Now, if you have been, you know, imagine living in a town when you have soldiers marching down the street of your neighborhood. Look at that Jewish woman. But do you think that's by the way, that's the people that our politicians keep telling us that we share their values, that, oh, we share Israel's values. Do you share that values? Do you share that woman's values, the one in the blue skirt and red shirt? Do you share her son's values? Do you share the values as they, what they are trying to actually raise their children on? They're doing this when you have soldiers around. Those are Israeli soldiers. So that woman could not have done anything to protect herself, because the Israeli soldiers will be beating her up. And many times, it doesn't matter if she's a woman, a man, an old man, or a child. They all got beaten up by the Israeli military. Because these people don't believe that Palestinians or anybody else, if you're not Jewish, they don't believe that you are even human. They believe that you are there to serve them. That's exactly what they believe. And this is not rhetoric, this is the truth. Don't you think it's time to end that? Don't you think it's time for the Palestinians to have their own country? To get rid of nonsense like that?